Hi babes, I'm Cece and welcome to my planet. Today I'll be showing you exactly how I make my flower hats. This is going to be a more in-depth tutorial, so hopefully you get some inspo for your next festival. Now let's hop into it. Starting off with our stencil, we're just going to grab an X-acto knife and some foam. So I usually hand draw all my stencils, and you can do whatever shape you would like for your flower hat. When it comes to the foam, you can just grab any kind of craft foam that they sell at your craft store. I also just grabbed this 2mm thick roll of foam from Amazon just because it's easier to cut out bigger size petals. So for my rose flower hat design, I cut out about 4 petals each in 3 different sizes, and I ended up using most of the petals, and some of them I cut a little bit too big, but this was my first time making a hat like that, so it's been an experimental process, but I think the result came out perfectly. If you're not sure about the sizing of your petals in your hat, I recommend making a template out of paper first before you go in and cut out your foam. Now that we have all of our petals cut out, we're going to go ahead and cut out our other stencils, which is going to be our leaf and our little topper. So I'm just cutting out about 5 leaves and 1 topper. I also just want to point out that I prefer using colored foam because I feel like in our next step, when we come to painting, it makes it so much easier. And don't forget that you can totally customize this process to your liking, so you can cut out as many leaves and as many petals as you need for the design that you're trying to achieve. Now that we have everything cut out, we're going to start prepping for paint. So we're going to heat up the foam so that it doesn't absorb the paint and get patchy. You can use a heat gun, and you can also use a blow dryer. This will just fix any imperfections in the foam so that when we go in with the acrylic paint, we get a very smooth and perfect application. For the rose petal hat, I wanted it to give the same aesthetic as the flower petals I just showed, so I really tried to make it look realistic, but also with keeping the paint light because we don't want to add too much. Here is some different examples of different types of flowers that I've made in the past, and I absolutely adore the creative process. It is just so fun getting down and dirty with the paint. I absolutely love it. And here I'm also just painting my leaves. I really recommend getting outside, going in the garden, looking at nature, or even just looking at flowers and different types of leaves online to really inspire you, because I swear I get the most inspiration when I'm out in nature. So just have fun with it and let your creativity flow. So once we've completed painting our flower petals and everything has thoroughly dried, we're going to go in and start shaping them. So here I am going in with my iron and using some PLUR wax paper to protect the foam, heating that on a very low setting so that I do not burn or bubble the paint, and then lightly tugging to get this really beautiful natural petal effect. Here you can see the difference, and I also just want to emphasize taking your time. If you pull too hard on the foam or work with it too harshly, it will rip. So definitely just be gentle, and like I said, take your time, divine time, and all that good stuff. I also tend to work on like one little corner at a time. That way I'm not rushing to mold the whole thing. It feels a lot easier this way so that it's not too overwhelming, and you can always practice first on just a spare piece of foam. That way you feel prepared when it comes to doing the actual petals. Now going in and shaping our leaves, we're going to do the exact same process, but I usually tend to tug on them a little bit less so that they have a different texture, but of course you can do it however you like. Channel your inner Bob Ross and get custom with it because it makes it so much more fun. Now when it comes to the topper, we're doing the same thing, but I really just tug on this one very lightly, just adding a little bit of texture, but not too much because it's very simple. Now that our petals are all shaped, it really starts to come to life. We're gonna go ahead and add some supports. So here I'm just using jewelry wire along with some super glue and a little piece of tape to help me when applying it because it is just so annoying when the super glue gets stuck to your fingers. You can cut out different types of wire and different lengths depending on your need and, like I said, your size of flower hat. And once that's fully dry, we're just gonna go in and basically camouflage that little wire, adding 1 to 2 layers of acrylic paint just so that it looks natural and that we can't see the wire. I only add wire to my petals. As for the leaves, I leave them alone. The only time I use wire is for the little stem that we're going to make. This is going to be popping out of that little topper that we made previously, just to give it a very realistic flower, fresh picked from the garden effect. So just wrapping the wire with a thin piece of felt. And if this is a little bit too complex for you, you can also just use any type of pipe cleaner and that should give you the same effect. So just cutting a little hole in our topper and poking that through, it really just adds a little cherry on top of our flower hat. If you want to be extra, you can also do some kind of vine or stem using the same process. Now we're going to be making the base of our flower hat. So I just grabbed a piece of elastic and measured it around my head, and then went in and cut out a strip of foam that was the same length as the elastic so that I could glue them together and get something that looks like this. If you're going to be wearing a wig with your flower hat, I recommend making the base a little bit bigger, or at least measuring your head while you have the wig on. And another little tip is if you need help measuring your head, you can use a piece of yarn and just mark that off, just so that you can play around and make sure that you have the proper fit. I'm also going to be going in and adding more support with some duct tape. I just want to make it quick and easy, especially since this part of the hat will not be seen. So this is kind of how the base should fit onto the head. I'm going to add some more structure and support so that I can get a nice rounded effect. As we're making this base, don't be afraid to look in the mirror, try it on, see how it fits, and see the placement that you want, because this is going to kind of determine how the petals sit on our head. I also really recommend marking off the front of your hat so that you don't get confused. I still felt like the hat needed more support considering I'm going to be adding a lot of petals, so I kind of just eyeballed the size of the supports I would need. A lot of this is me just winging it and going with the flow, and I always say do what is easy and what feels natural for you. Sometimes when it comes to crafting, we tend to get in our heads because we want it to be so perfect, but that is the beauty of this flower hat, is that nature is imperfectly perfect. The best tip I can give you is to honestly just give yourself enough time to comfortably craft this hat. It makes it so much more fun. It's honestly so therapeutic, and there's so many different ways you can go with it. So to make it easier to glue on the petals, I wanted to seal the hat with some felt that I just had laying around. So here I am just cutting out a piece that will fit that little gap. And then I'm just cutting a little slit so that we can kind of make a dart, I believe is what it's called. Yes, but essentially this will help the felt lay flat. So this is kind of what the hat is looking like. I added the felt on all the sides and then went in and secured with more duct tape. I made sure to mark off the front, and now our base is complete and we can start assembling the flower hat. I really like assembling my flower hat in the mirror. It gives me the best fit.
Please let this look good, because I'm honestly so freaking scared right now. So please let this look good.
Assembling can definitely be the trickiest part, but doing it in the mirror helps so much. I'm definitely level 10 psychotic for the fact that I hot glue the petals on to my head. I was not joking when I said that I literally wing like the whole thing, but somehow I go with the flow and it always works out. So I started by gluing on my medium-sized petals and then going in and adding the bigger petals over top in a layered effect. The tricky part was figuring out how to do the small petals. You can literally see I was confused here. I had made the mistake of making them a little bit too long, so I had to cut them down, and I decided to glue them in between my medium and big pieces like so. Don't be afraid to play around with the placement before you go in and glue everything together. So I ended up using 4 big petals, 4 medium petals, and 3 of the small petals because I accidentally messed up and ripped one. I was really happy with the placement though, so I went in and started hot gluing on my leaves. Like I said, feel free to kind of plot out where you're going to glue them and just take it step by step. Don't apply too much glue at once. Just apply enough to hold it down and then go in and kind of secure afterwards. Now we're going to go ahead and apply our topper just to cover up the seams, and this is basically the hat. Adding on the little topper, it is just the cherry on top to our beautiful creation, and this is the final flower hat. So we're going to go ahead and seal everything in with some clear acrylic gloss. This is totally optional, but as you can see here, it just adds a nice shiny effect to it. Here is a bit of a difference. You can see one is glossed and one is not. So these are some of the other flower hats that I've created. You can honestly create any kind of flower with this design. It is totally up to your imagination. Here you could see I added rhinestones, and for my water lily flower hat I added dewdrops to give it that beautiful magical effect. And this is the rose flower hat. I absolutely adore her. She came out so beautiful. And what I absolutely love about this design is it is endless. You can create any kind of flower. Also too, I just want to mention that you can pad the hat with foam and add a ribbon for extra security, as you can see I did here, so that I could dance all night long. I want to say a special thank you to all of my rave angels. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for supporting my art, and I cannot wait to see your future creations. I love you so much, and I'll see you in the rave garden.